And it's 1 o'clock. I think we can get started with today's BGS hearing.
Recording in progress.
These are a little bit different than our board meetings. We do have all our commissioners here. So Madam Secretary, could you do a roll call in the matter of the provision of basic generation service for the period beginning June 1st, 2025?
Commissioner Crystal DeLune?
Here.
Commissioner Abdu?
Here.
Commissioner Baines?
Here.
And President Gulsadovi?
Here. Thank you. And I will ask the DAG to read a statement regarding the notices for this hearing today.
Adequate public notice has been provided pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice of this hearing has been published in newspapers in broad circulation in the state and with the Secretary of State, and has been published on the board's website as well as posted in the board's office.
Thank you, Echo. All right. Well, on July 1st, 2024, the electric distribution companies jointly filed their proposal addressing how to procure the remaining 1/3 of the state's BGS RSCP and the annual BGS CIEP requirements for the period beginning June 1st, 2025. In addition, the board also received initial comments on the EDC's proposals, which were due by the board September 4th, 2024. Today's hearing is part of the procedural schedule adopted by the board in its April 17th, 2024 order initiating this matter. This morning, we'll take comments from interested parties, and after each set of comments, there may be questions from commissioners as well as board staff. While we'll attempt to be flexible in the timing of the presentations, I would ask that the parties try to limit themselves to 10 minutes. To set the framework for the subject before us, staff has arranged for the following presentations. First, we will hear from NERA, the BGS auction manager, and the EDCs, then from other parties, including the Division of Rate Counsel. I will go down my list in the order that parties have signed up, indicating desire to participate in today's hearing. I know we got one late yesterday, I believe. And for any parties that are doing a panel presentation, we'll try to be more flexible with your time, but please do try to be concise. Finally, a reminder that written comments on this BGS procurement proceeding are due on October 7th, 2024. Final comments should only be used to respond to issues raised either in the initial comments or in today's hearing. They should not be used to raise new issues in this proceeding. Is NERA and are the EDCs ready to proceed?
Yes.
Okay, so I will first call upon the auction manager, NERA, and the EDCs for the record. If you would identify yourself with names and spelling for the court report.
Yes, I will say the words. I will share my screen.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, President Gulsadovi, and good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Rachel Northcutt. I'm from NERA. NERA has managed the New Jersey BGS auctions since their inception, and that was more than 20 years ago today. Today I have with me also from NERA, Mr. Paul Cardona, as well as representatives from the EDCs. Specifically, I have with me Terry Moran from PSE&G, Courtney Luff from JCP&L, Diana Novak from ACE, and Chauncey Davis from RICO. Now, each of these individuals is leading the respective EDC's auction efforts. We greatly appreciate the opportunity to address the board today. The EDCs will be filing final comments on October 7th that will fully address the issues that were raised in the initial comments. During today's presentation, we'll focus on explaining the main elements of the EDC's proposal. The EDCs continue to propose two auctions, the first being the BGS CIEP auction. That's the BGS Commercial and Industrial Energy Pricing Auction. This is to procure supply for larger commercial and industrial customers. And the EDCs continue to propose that the CIEP threshold be set at 500 kW. Winning suppliers in the BGS CIEP auction serve BGS CIEP load for 1 year. So BGS CIEP customers are served through supply procured at a single auction. The second auction is the BGS RSCP auction. That's the BGS Residential Small Commercial Pricing Auction. This is to procure supply for residential and smaller commercial customers. Supply is procured on a 3-year rolling basis so that customers at any given point are served supply procured from 3 different auctions. This term averaging allows smaller customers to be protected from the volatility of short-term markets while still paying rates that reflect the market. In both auctions, supply is procured for all EDCs at once, so that each auction has 4 products, where a product is the BGS load for a given EDC. All BGS customers retain the right to shop at all times. Today, we'll discuss 6 key elements of the EDC's proposal. That's the product, the standard contract, rate design, the auction format, the bidder interface, and competitive safeguards exercised in the auction. The first element is the product, where the EDC's proposal maintains the product as a full requirements service for both BGS RSCP and BGS CIEP. This means that aside from the EDCs continuing to be responsible for transmission, BGS suppliers will continue to have load serving responsibility for BGS load, and BGS suppliers will be physically and financially responsible for the hour-by-hour provisions of the electricity to BGS customers. The full requirements product will continue to include capacity, energy, ancillary services, as well as obligations to fulfill New Jersey's renewable portfolio standards and any other services that may be required by PJM. Each BGS supplier will assemble its own portfolio of products that it believes will make the best bid and provide price risk management services. And through the auction, competitive discipline is brought to bear on the cost of managing the BGS supply portfolio. The BGS auction process is designed to select the most effective portfolio managers. In this way, New Jersey's BGS customers can be expected to benefit from competitive market prices when BGS suppliers bring the full gamut of supply strategies to bear on managing the BGS supply portfolio, including purchases to satisfy New Jersey's renewable portfolio standards. The competitive discipline of the market selects those entities that are best at this management function. The full requirements product is fully consistent with ADECA's preference for reliance on competitive forces, as placing the portfolio acquisition and price risk management in the hands of competitive entities is consistent with the state's policy to rely on competitive markets. The BGS auctions have consistently attracted a diverse set of suppliers, and these suppliers are an accomplished group of portfolio managers that are disciplined by market forces. The full requirements product bought at the auction obtains a price for BGS that, when combined with the transmission charge paid by BGS customers, provides the best basis for price comparisons against third-party supplier rates and helps create an efficient retail marketplace in New Jersey. And finally, the rolling procurement structure for smaller commercial and residential customers through the BGS RSCP auction provides a proper balance between reflecting current market prices and protecting those customers from market volatility. And I'll pause here. I'll hand things to my colleague, Paul Cardona.
Thank you, Rachel. Excuse me. Good afternoon, President Gulsadovi, and good afternoon, commissioners. As Rachel mentioned, my name is Paul Cardona. That's Paulcardona, and I'm from NERA, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of you here today. The second element of the EDC's proposal is the standard contract, and the basic structure and terms of the standard contract has been maintained from prior years. As in prior years, during the application process, BGS suppliers agreed to the terms of the standard contract that is approved by the board. The standard contract is entered into by each BGS supplier with the EDC it's supplying and enables a uniform set of obligations in New Jersey across all 4 EDCs. The standard also includes uniformly applied creditworthiness requirements and financial guarantees that help assure the customers will receive the benefit of the bargain obtained through the BGS auctions. Importantly, the standard contract enables a price-only, transparent identification of winning bids, and there is no subjectivity in selecting winning bidders. And prior to moving on to the next element, I would like to highlight one additional element of the BGS RACP Supplier Master Agreement, or SMA, included in the proposal. The BGS RACP SMA continues to use capacity proxy prices, which is consistent with the approach approved by the board in BGS proceedings since 2020. Since the 2020 proceeding, the board approved the use of capacity proxy prices as the actual capacity prices for some delivery years in the supply period were not known prior to those auctions. At this time, capacity prices continue to be unknown, and to avoid excessive premiums in BGS bids, the EDCs again proposed to set capacity proxy prices this year for energy year 2027 and energy year 2028, to the extent that the capacity prices determined through PJM's base residual auctions for those energy years are not known at least 5 business days prior to the start of the BGS RSTP auction. The 2025 DRA saw significant increases in the price for capacity in PJM relative to previous years. So the EDCs for this in their proposal and proposed that calculation of the capacity proxy prices for energy years 2027 and energy year 2028 be contingent on the level of recent prices for capacity in PJM. As briefly mentioned on the previous slide, the supplements included in the BGS RSCP SMA would be voided if the results of the applicable BRA are not known at least 5 business days prior to the start of the BGS RSCP auction. This is actually already the case for energy year 2026, as the results of the 2025-2026 BRA became available in July after the EDCs filed their proposal, which included a supplement for energy year 2026. Under the supplements in the proposed BGS RSCP SMA, the BGS RSCP supplier would be paid or would pay the difference between the PJM rate for capacity and the capacity proxy price for each of energy year 2027 and energy year 2028 as applicable. The rate design is also a key element of the ED's BGS proposal and allows BGS rates to be market-based and reflect final auction prices. Beginning with the 2021 BGS auctions, the EDCs are responsible for transmission, and each EDC shows a separate transmission charge. As provided in each EDC's company-specific addendum, the rate design specifies how rates would be adjusted for capacity proxy prices in energy years 27 and 28 should in the BGS RCP Supplier Master Agreement be used. As in the past, the EDCs request the rate design be approved in advance by the board. This is important as bidders use the rate design to assess migration risks and to prepare their bids. While the rate design would be approved in advance by the board, calculations would be refreshed approximately 10 days before bids are due with the latest data from PJM. Lastly, each EDC's company-specific addendum contains an update to the status of each EDC's current fast charging pilot program. The fourth element of the EDC's proposal is the auction format. Consistent with prior years, the auction format is proposed as a descending clock auction, which is a multi-round and multi-product design. The format is multi-product because loads from all 4 EDCs are simultaneously procured within each auction. Multi-round format, as over several rounds, bidders submit bids and receive information regardless in those bids, and bidders have an opportunity to bid again at a lower price in subsequent rounds. As auction progresses and one round leads to the next, bidders know that they must submit bids at a lower price in order to win at the auction. Competition among the suppliers drives the prices in the auction down to levels that are consistent with the market. This objective method of selecting winners through this auction process provides for greater transparency that maximizes participation and thus minimizes prices. And at a practical level, the auction is online and so that bidders submit bids using a web-based interface. The way in which various information is communicated and made available to bidders encompasses the 5th element of the EDC's proposal. The auction manager ensures the interface with bidders. So what this means is that we, as the auction manager, are the ones to interact with and provide information to bidders, and we do this in several ways. We maintain a BGS auction website and that serves as a central source of information about the auctions. We also host several webcasts. The first is scheduled for October. A second will be held in November, and then the third will be held for registered bidders in January. We also provide bidders an opportunity to practice submitting their bids using the web-based interface, and 2 training sessions that occur in January and February. Lastly, the auction manager responds to bidder questions and makes available these resulting questions and answers on the BGS auction website. And the auction manager also provides applications and works or processes bidder applications and works to establish a qualified field of bidders for the auction. The 6th element of the proposal is the inclusion of a set of competitive safeguards. I mentioned earlier that the auction format is designed so that the competition amongst suppliers drives prices down to levels that are consistent with the market. In addition to the auction format, there are a set of competitive safeguards to promote competition in the auction. One of these safeguards includes provisions to adjust the auction volume to ensure a competitive bidding environment. A second is the use of low caps, which are limits on the amounts that any one bidder may bid and win in the auction. This limits credit risk for customers and prevents large bidders from unduly influencing the results of the auction. Lastly, there are specific association rules that are designed to prevent collusion among bidders. With respect to roles throughout the auction process, well-defined roles for the auction manager, the EDCs, the board, and board's consultant. The manager is responsible for carrying out operational efforts, communicating information, organizing responses to bidder questions, and administering the auction in accordance with the auction rules as approved by the board. The board's consultant oversees the conduct of the auction and briefs the board during the auction process. The board monitors the auctions and reviews and renders a decision on the final auction results. We look forward to working with the board's consultant and board staff representatives of the board to reach decisions on key issues such as starting prices, as well as working with them while they observe the auctions. Thank you, President Gulsadovi, and thank you, Commissioners, for your time today. With that, I'll pass the presentation back to Rachel to finish, to present closing arguments.
Thanks, Paul. To conclude today's presentation, as in prior years, we request that the board approve the auction process as filed by the EDCs. We request that the board continue to follow a procedure that will enable it to render a decision on the auction results within 2 business days of the close of the auction. As in prior years, we request that the BGS rate design be established prior to the auction. And finally, we request that the board approve the contingency plan, cost recovery, and accounting treatment set forth in each company's specific addendum. Thank you very much, President Gulsadovi, and thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? And any from staff? Okay. In that case, we will move to the Division of Rate Counsel. And I see Rob Glover has joined us. Nice to see you, Rob. For those who don't know, Rob used to work at the board. So good to see you back.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great. Good afternoon. My name is Robert Glover, and I'm an Assistant Deputy Rate Counsel with the New Jersey Division of Rate Counsel. I want to thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today on behalf of New Jersey ratepayers regarding the 2025 BGS proposal submitted by the electric distribution companies, or EDCs. Rate Counsel filed initial written comments with the board in this matter. Our comments today focus on the EDC's proposed continuation of certain temporary measures in the 2025 BGS process and the initial comments of the Retail Electric Supply Association, or RESA. In our initial written comments, we discussed the EDC's ongoing DCFC pilot programs. Although Rate Counsel appreciates the data provided by the EDCs on their respective DCFC pilot programs, Rate Counsel believes additional information is warranted. Specifically, Rate Counsel believes the EDCs should include information on station utilization with the semi-annual reports required by the board's November 17, 2023 BGS order and the stipulations for each EDC's EV program. Rate Counsel also notes that the board's November 17, 2023 BGS order requires the EDCs to provide quarterly reports that include information related to pilot program participation, calculated pilot program rates, and associated costs. While the pilot program started on June 1, 2024, only ACE has filed a quarterly report. Continued and additional collection and public reporting of DCFC station data from the individual EDCs is needed for the board to determine the appropriate rate design and cost recovery mechanism for the EDCs. Low participation in DCFC pilot programs may indicate that additional subsidies through BGS rates are not needed in the DCFC market as originally advocated by stakeholders. Rate Counsel continues to have concerns about the lack of evidence that these ratepayer-funded incentives are in fact needed for further expansion of EV charging infrastructure. In addition to providing updates on their DCFC pilot programs, the EDCs have requested that they be allowed to continue to use capacity proxy prices for the 2026-2027 and 2027-2028 delivery years. As noted in Rate Counsel's prior BGS comments, PJM's capacity auctions have been delayed due to prolonged regulatory uncertainty at the federal level. Based on this, the EDCs argue that potential BGS RSCP suppliers may include risk premiums into their bids or choose not to participate altogether if the capacity price is not known prior to the auction. To address this concern, the EDCs propose to extend the use of a capacity proxy price in the BGS RSCP SMA to include currently unknown base residual auction, or BRA, prices for the 2026-2027 and 2027-2028 delivery years, since those auctions have not yet occurred. The EDCs propose utilizing the capacity proxy price if the BRA results are not known at least 5 business days prior to the EDC's BGS RSCP auction. Since the 2027-2028 BRA will occur well after the February 2025 BGS auction, the capacity proxy price will likely be an element of the 2025 BGS proposal. Given the mismatch between the BGS auction and the 2027-2028 capacity auction, and the consistency of the EDC's continued use of the capacity proxy price with the EDC's treatment of unknown capacity prices in last year's BGS auction, Rate Counsel does not object to the extension of the capacity proxy price for the 2027-2028 delivery year. Regarding the 2026-2027 delivery year, Rate Counsel believes that absent additional significant delays, the 5 business days advance notice of the BRA is sufficient for bidders seeking to participate in the 2025 BGS auction. Therefore, Rate Counsel supports the EDC's 5-day trigger for canceling the capacity proxy price for the 2026-2027 delivery year. Further, regarding a remote auction platform, Rate Counsel is in favor of reducing administrative costs associated with the physical BGS auction office while the auctions are being conducted remotely. While Rate Counsel does not object to the EDC's continuation of the remote auction process proposal and declining to renew the sublease when it expires at the end of January 2025, the security and integrity of the auction process must be maintained. So, while Rate Counsel appreciates the minor administrative efficiencies achieved by a remote auction, Rate Counsel believes that board approval of a remote auction should be conditioned on it finding that the integrity of the auction process can be maintained under this process. RISA provided initial comments on the 2025 BGS with a letter of support from NRG. RISA raises 2 issues with PSE&G's BGS time of use, or TOU, rate proposal. PSE&G's BGS TOU proposal is intended to coincide with PSE&G's proposed distribution TOU rate in its currently pending base rate case. The proposal would lock customers in to the TOU rate for 12 months if they opt into the rate and offer a refund to customers that would have saved on their bill if they had stayed on the RS rate schedule. First, RISA argues third-party suppliers, or TPSs, are at a competitive disadvantage relative to PSE&G because PSE&G customers who opt into the TOU rate would be prevented from switching to a TPS during the 12-month period following when the customer opts into the TOU rate. Rate Counsel notes that PSE&G's base rate case is still pending with the board, so there is no guarantee that the distribution TOU rate proposal necessitating a comparable supply-side BGS TOU rate will be implemented at this time. Rate Counsel also notes the board's rules permit TPSs to charge a cancellation fee if the customer terminates their TPS contract before the end of the contract term. Rate Counsel suggests that the board decline to approve PSE&G's BGS TOU proposal until more information can be provided and the pending base rate case is resolved. The board has previously held that the EDCs have no financial interest in the level of BGS versus TPS sales, have no reason to promote BGS to customers, and are prohibited by law from marketing or promoting BGS. Second, RISA argues TPSs are at a competitive disadvantage in offering TOU rates relative to PSE&G because TPSs lack equal access to AMI meter data. Rate Counsel notes the board currently has 2 ongoing proceedings addressing data transparency and access to AMI meter data and docket numbers EO 2011 0716 and EX 2409 0717, which would be a more appropriate forum to evaluate the issues raised by RISA. In the AMI data transparency docket, Rate Counsel has consistently advocated in favor of customer ownership of their AMI data, as well as convenient methods for customers to share that data. Specifically, Rate Counsel has supported cost-effective standards such as the green button Connect My Data standard that allow customers to easily share their AMI data with third parties, such as TPSs. Should the board choose to implement this standard, RISA's concerns about access to AMI meter data should be alleviated. Last, RISA argues the board should amend its rules to allow TPSs to pass through capacity cost increases to their customers on fixed price contracts, since BGS providers are permitted to do so. Rate Counsel notes the board has made clear that nowhere does ADICA say that the pricing of BGS needs to meet the same requirements as TPS pricing. Additionally, TPSs are in control of the terms of the contracts they offer and can offer customers variable price contracts that account for increases in capacity prices. Further, TPSs participate in the PJM stakeholder process, which provides them with notice of changes in the capacity market that affect prices. TPSs are sophisticated financial entities capable of factoring in capacity price fluctuations into their contracts, and RISA has not demonstrated a need to shift the risk of price fluctuations from these entities to their customers with a fixed price contract. This concludes my comments today. Thank you again for the opportunity to appear before you on behalf of New Jersey ratepayers.
Thanks, Rob. Are there questions from my colleagues or staff? Nope. Thanks, Stace. Thank you, Rob. I think we have one more speaker, Murray Bevan, on behalf of RISA. I suspect you'll have some comments.
I do. I do. Although President Sidoti, I noted that you didn't mention that, I, at an earlier
You're
point in
right.
my
I
career,
actually
worked at the
did think
BPU.
you are correct, Murray. I did think of that.
It's
To
only
be
30
clear,
years ago.
yes,
though,
Murray
so.
did work at the board, not while I worked at the board, as Rob did. So I
Fair
apologize
enough.
for
No,
not
that's fine.
making that clear.
Yeah.
But although if I did that every time we had a stakeholder meeting, I feel like we would be talking about people who worked at the board a lot.
You'd have to do a lot of that, obviously. Yes, yes.
All right.
So
Thanks, Murray.
let me jump in here. RISA has not participated in comments on BGS for a number of years, but our theme has generally been, and in our written comments is again, that the BGS in other states, they call it supplier of last resort or default supply, but that should be a product that is competitively neutral. And we've made these arguments in the past. The staff has not always agreed with us, but that's kind of a driving position for RISA. If you want to have an active competitive supply market, the products need to be offered in a competitively neutral manner. So let me turn to time of use, and I appreciate Glover's thoughtful comments about this. RISA members have a lot of experience in time of use rates in other states. Time of use rates can encourage energy efficiency. They can be a cheaper price product for customers. We noted, I think in some comments in the last year or so, that the PJM NITS rates have a 40% variability between the price at 4 in the afternoon and 8 at night. So if customers decide to run their washing machines and dishwashers or whatever at 8, there is a system price variability, and the time of use rates can accomplish that as well. So we're not opposed to time of use rates. In fact, RISA would like to be more actively involved and offer those products in New Jersey, as they've done for decades in some other states. So we encourage time of use. We generally support it. On the concern we raised about the lock-in of the PSE&G time of use rates, that the customer needed to be on the rate for 12 months, both PSE&G and Rachel today said that clarified, at least our understanding, the customers would be able to shop, and that their proposal and the PSE&G addendum doesn't in any way argue that customers shouldn't be able to shop. So we thank you for that clarification. And it sounds like that issue that we raised is resolved because customers will be able to shop. On the capacity price increase they're significant. We saw a big BRA increase in July. We expect another one in December. Our point was that for retail suppliers that are on that offer a fixed price contract, it's difficult for them to hedge or anticipate those costs without the ability, at least on the fixed price contracts, to allow those pass-throughs. These are also big numbers coming up this year. So if without some modification either to the BGS product or the BPU regulation on passing through costs, it places third-party suppliers at a significant disadvantage as they offer these products, primarily to the residential and small commercial market. So with that, those are my comments. I really appreciate the opportunity to provide them, and we'll attempt to answer any questions that folks have any.
Thanks, Murray. Any questions from the other commissioners or staff?
Nope.
Okay, well, thank you. Thanks to everyone for your participation today. And just want to remind you all that final written comments for the BGS bid procurement proceedings are due on October 7th, 2024 by close of business. Final comments should only be used to respond to the issues raised either in initial comments or in today's hearing, and they should not be used to raise new matters in this proceeding. I do not believe need a motion here, so I will close the hearing and thank you all for being here. We are adjourned.